remodel project and trying to figure out how to get two independent light fixtures above the vanity. We got a double sink vanity, and we're gonna have two light fixtures, one above each of the sinks in the vanity. And originally there was just this wire sticking out of the wall here from the lights vanity that was here previously with the one sink vanity, just on the one side. And luckily there's only one stud in the wall between that wire, where I'm going to cut a hole right there and put the wire in that one, and then I'm going to run a wire from that hole over to this hole, and then using this electrical cut-in box, going to place a second light fixture in this bathroom. And luckily there's only one stud in between these two holes, and so rather than cutting a hole in the sheetrock up there high where it's easily visible, the problem is we have a texture on our wall that's kind of difficult to replicate. We've bought some texture sprays, you can see here. We've tried to patch some of these areas, but it's just difficult to get the texturing to look just right. And luckily most of these areas are going to be covered up by the new mirror that goes above the vanity. But right here you can see I decided to cut a hole down lower. I came down pretty low in the wall, down below where the, way down below where the new vanity is going to rest up here. The new vanity is going to come up to about right here. And so this area where we have to patch the sheetrock is going to be hidden behind the vanity. If you do a full mirror that covers the whole area, you could cut a hole right behind the mirror and go right there in that area, and that could work. But I decided to go lower, even though I'll have to use a little bit more wire to get there, just because if we ever decide to do two separate mirrors instead of the one mirror, that way there won't be a bunch of patched sheetrock in the middle where it's easily visible and doesn't look as nice. So we're going to patch the sheetrock right here, and I decided to cut a hole like this right above the stud so that it's an easy way to patch the sheetrock. When I'm done, I can pull the wire through there. Luckily there's already a hole drilled there for a different wire. I'll just use that same hole and run my wire through. But then when we're done, I can just put this piece of sheetrock back in and then screw it in place and patch it. And it's already got the texturing, and it'll be pretty easy to patch that just with a little bit of minimal putty or caulk, or just a little bit of sheetrock compound to fill in those holes. So that's my tip, is when you're doing that, it's if you have to do sheetrock repairs, try to bring them into an area where they're hidden, because it's very difficult to match textures sometimes. To get the texturing just perfect to make it look good is really challenging when you're patching sheetrock. So in order to hide those areas where you have to do sheetrock work, it's good if you can do those behind something that's going to be like right here. The vanity is going to be covering this. So even if our sheetrock texturing repair isn't perfect looking, it doesn't matter because it's hidden behind the vanity. So that's my tip for the day, is if you're doing electrical work or other work that requires cutting into the sheetrock, try to put things that you're going to have to hide. You should put sheetrock repairs behind something you can hide there. So hope that helps. Working on the bathroom here, and there was a hole in the wall right there where the wire used to be sticking out for the vanity light, and we're adding a double vanity instead of there used to be a tiny single vanity in this bathroom. We'll kind of come back here so you can see. There used to be a small vanity over there, but we're adding a second light, so there'll be a light above each of the sinks in the double sink vanity. So anyway, we had to move where the light's going to be because of that, so it'd be centered over each sink. So the one light will be over here, over the sink here, and then another light will be there. It won't be that light, that's just a temporary light we're using. But anyway, in order to patch the sheetrock hole, there was kind of a little strip with a wire sticking out, and I rewired it, got it up to there, and ran another wire over there. And so we just have to patch the hole here now. So what I did is measured the size of the little strip that was there. It was just kind of an irregular, ragged hole that they had made. There was no electrical box there. And then I cut out a piece of sheetrock about the exact size I want, make sure it's a nice clean cut. And then I traced it on the wall over where the little ragged hole was, and traced it around there. Then I cut around here with a sheetrock saw to make sure it's got a nice clean cut. And then I added some little pieces of wood here, just thin pieces of wood, and screwed it in above and below so that there's something for the sheetrock to be mounted to. And then now you can see that fits in there just really nicely. And also has the same texture because it's a piece of sheetrock that was cut off a different place in our house that has the same texture on it, which is nice. You're still going to see a little bit of this line when we fill it in with patch, with sheetrock compound, but it'll still be good to have some of the texture in there at least, because the mirror in this bathroom, the mirror only comes up to about here. And luckily these screw holes will be covered by the mirror because it will come up to here, but we'll still kind of show this. We're going to try to fill that in and patch it as best we can and get the texture to look as good as we can to fill in those holes. So, and we'll paint it again to make sure it matches. So that's how you patch a sheetrock hole with those pieces of wood. I'll show you what it looks like after we're done. And then we use the cut a hole here to get the wiring, because I wanted that hole to be down below where the it would show up here. So anyway, that's how you patch a hole in the sheetrock. I have another video you can watch about patching holes in the sheetrock when we were working in our garage that shows you exactly the steps of how to make these little strips and the screws that we use and everything, but you can watch that video for more details on how to patch sheetrock holes, but this just gives you another example of a different style or size of sheetrock hole that we had to patch here.